I'd like to first introduce His Most Reverend Excellency, Bishop Sarhad Jammo, who is the Senior Chaldean Catholic Bishop of America. Sitting to his immediate left is Mr. Mark Arabo, National Spokesman for the Iraqi Christian Community for the Western United States. Also joining us here today in solidarity with the Christian minorities in Iraq and of course other minorities being persecuted in Iraq and in Syria today is Rabbi Avraham Berkowitz. He's the director at Shabbat headquarters and senior advisor at Edelman.
That people today, after resisting so many millennia, is facing the most barbaric attack. The remnant of that people. At the time of Saddam, they were, last census in Iraq, there were 1,400,000 Christians. That's the last census. Lately, before the last few months' events, 400,000 were left. 100 already had to quit their ancestral land. 400,000 only were left. From those 400,000, about 150 were directly targeted by what happened in the past few months. And this is not an isolated event or wave. This is one of the waves that are coming successively in the past. I mean, since the fall of King Faisal al-Thani of Iraq, since the revolution of '58, continuous wave of persecution that follows each other. And a peak happened just a few months ago with ISIS. That's a peak. So 400,000, Mosul started years ago pushing Christianity away. In the year 1963, it was Shawaf, the president of Iraq, after, I said, the revolution. At that time I was studying in Rome, but I know what happened in the village, Tilkef, the ancestral village of my family. Shawaf hung 6 men of that village in Tilkef, and forced people, even their relatives, to come sing and dance or show joy at that scene. It was 1963. A few years ago we had a synod, Chaldean Bishop Synod. I think it was 2008, when one of my colleagues, Bishop Faraj, was murdered and brought his body in Mosul, and his body brought for burial in Karamles with priests and deacons. So it's a wave. Now we have, last wave, we have about 140,000 people pushed away from their villages and in the open, under the stars. And parks, schools, churches, and so on. So this is a great catastrophe for humanity, and the whole world must join effort to really do what we can from every aspect to save what we can save and make this segment of humanity very, again, not only functioning, but contributing to the well-being of human culture and civilization, because they have all the resources. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for your remarks, for bringing us back to history and the relevance of the societies that are being persecuted. I now have the honor of giving the floor to my dear friend, Mr. Mark Arabo.
Thank you so much. I'll be very brief in the respect of time. I'm so privileged to be here today with all of you. Just to put this in context for everyone around the world, excuse me. In 2003, we had 1.4 million Christians in Iraq. Today, we have less than 400,000. So 1 million have left in the last 11 years and have been displaced. 60 of our churches have been bombed or destroyed. The world has a moral obligation to act for humanity. And also, we have to keep in mind everything happening to the Iraqi Christians in Iraq right now is a direct consequence of the 2003 misguided war. The Iraqi Christians were quite fine in 2003, before the war. And so the world needs to recognize the fact that this isn't a place in the world that just has problems, that it's a sad story and hopefully it gets better. The world has to recognize the fact that the Iraqi war has caused 1 million Christians to leave the region, has caused the remaining 400,000 to be displaced from their homes, converted to other religions, or been persecuted, has caused 60 of our churches to be bombed and destroyed. Because when you realize what's happening right now, what's happening on the ground right now, we have 140,000 of our community, of which 50% of the 140,000 are children 12 years or younger, have been displaced from their homes, are living in deserts or camps with little food, little water, little clothing, and are begging to be rescued. And so we've been very clear from the onset of a three-pronged approach. Humanitarian aid to make sure no one dies from lack of food, water, clothing, supplies. A safe zone for those who want to stay. But most importantly, safe passage for those who want to leave and start a new life. And 2 weeks ago, we started a list, and we have a communication through people on the ground in Iraq. And through San Diego, there's a call center. And we received around 70,000 names, people, families, children, that are begging to be rescued from Iraq right now. We've also recognized 70,000 sponsors that have said, well, to give them a home, we'll give them clothes, we'll give them shelter. And one of the most dire situations for the world right now is to act in the face of this genocide. Because this is a genocide of Christians and minorities. And the world, human conscience, has to wake up. And we've been relentless in our efforts to do so. We've made tremendous progress in Washington, D.C. We've had great meetings at the UN, and I specifically want to thank 4 countries. I want to thank France, I want to thank Sweden, I want to thank Australia, and I want to thank Canada. These 4 countries have said, we're going to open up our doors, our hearts, our minds to the victims of genocide. This is a genocide. And the remaining 400,000 are just asking to live. They'll go to any country that'll accept them. I want to thank you for your time. I'll pass it over to Rabbi Berkowitz, who has joined us as to show that the solidarity amongst faith, and this is much broader than Christians. This is about humanity, and it's about everyone with a human heart and a human conscience to say, we cannot let a genocide go on, and we have to offer a home for these innocent families. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, and Bishop, and and Afaf. It's working together with this extraordinary, dedicated team that doesn't have a morning and night to see what they can do to help save one more human life. The videos that we've seen on international television that shakes the core of our human consciousness, that in 2014, in real time, with all the modern uses of technology, of instant communication, social media, YouTube, Twitter, what is the result? We see human beings being forced to convert to another faith that is not theirs or die, taking us back to the darkest times of the Middle Ages. When the United Nations was formed, the universal mandate of all the countries of the member states was united around what it says on the wall, on the Isaiah wall outside the United Nations. The Isaiah wall, it says that we all together will work for the humanity's mission that God put us on this earth, that no nation should lift up a sword against another nation, and we should know no more war, and we will do everything we can to prevent that. The NATO, the United States, other countries are dealing in a political solution to fight those that want to destroy the world with terror. The United Nations have weapons, but they have something that can transform every war, and that's light. And that is saving humanity from this tragedy. But right now, if there are people in Nineveh, in Mosul area, that must get out or they will die, there's no time to deliberate. There is no reason why the resources of the member states of the United Nations should not figure out the plan and execute as quickly as 10,000 monsters have been able to overtake a region of millions. 10,000 powerful, inspiring men and women of the civilized world can help save a few 100,000 people and give them safe passage until they can return in the future when they will be safe. But until then, give them a new home of hope. The United States is a country of kindness. It's a nation of refugees that were escaping religious intolerance. When Soviet Jewry was allowed to leave Russia, and the walls came down in 1991, their physical lives were not at danger. They weren't killing men, women, and children. They just didn't allow us to practice our religion, to pray to God, to go to synagogue, to teach our children in a Jewish school. And just for that, we lobbied and we tore down that wall and allowed 1 million of our people to come to the United States, Canada, Australia, Europe. Why now, when there's lists of thousands of men and women and children, majority children, are begging, I want to live a safe life. Why can't we use the force of the United Nations?
The spokesman will shortly be on his way to the room briefing.
This week of the UNGA, create a coalition of force of saving the lives of those that are being killed in the name of religion. We have one mission in this world, and we are all members of those of the faith community. We must call out God. We are here to create a world of peace, of lasting peace, but we cannot stand idly by. Everyone who has access and has the ability to influence their state, to find means and ways to take in and bring into safe passage those that must be rescued now. This is the call of the hour. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, Mark and Rabbi. We're more than happy to take questions. Please do designate who your question is going to, and kindly do offer them your name and media affiliation before posing your questions. And they have very graciously offered to do one-on-one interviews after this press conference. Please, go ahead, Nizar.
Nizar Abu Dawan, Mayadeen Television in Lebanon, Beirut. My question is regarding, do you feel that there is ethnic cleansing going on all over the Middle East, be it in Palestine, where very limited number of Christians that remain in Bethlehem, in Jerusalem, and all the place. Also in Iraq, in the last 11 years, you lost more than 1 million Christians who migrated, and France has offered that all the Christians of Nineveh, Mosul, and the rest go to France. Do you feel that there is a conspiracy that Christians should be moved out from the Middle East with the help of superpowers, those who are appealing to give you a hand at this time? I know it's a very critical and sad moment for the Christians. They are really facing ethnic cleansing as we see it here.
Towards this question,
See, making global judgments is something very delicate, sensitive, and needs a lot of putting elements together. But one thing is clear: the constitutions of those countries of the Middle East, that's something undeniable, is factual. Except Lebanon.
Saudi Arabia has no constitution.
The Constitution puts Christians in second and third degree citizenship. The Constitution. So that will lead. That is, I mean, if I tell someone you are second-grade citizen in your country, I mean, I am at the end, he will defend his dignity. That is fundamental. Even doing nothing else. Just having that constitution. And that's why the United States must honor the Charter of Human Rights. Those constitutions, giving one religion priority, primacy, and practically hegemony on that land or on that region, will at the end make everybody else second and third class citizen. So that is the fundamental problem that should not have been tolerated by the international community, by this great institution, but it is very sadly and tragically tolerated.
You are preempted. We noticed, in the last, the rebels in Syria and the war in Syria and Iraq is both. Those are supported by the same powers who went and attacked Ma'lula, by the same countries who are associated with NATO and the West. They are not innocent. Daesh did not come from the moon or from Jupiter. They came from the neighboring countries and mainly from the desert. You all know that. How do you explain that those who are allies to the United States are the ones who helped this massacre to happen?
Really, that is not my field of knowledge and of assessment. But my field is something that I mentioned, because that is something legal, something in the legality and the justice of the world. Constitution, if you begin with the Constitution of a country must be reflecting human values for everyone and be enforced. The rest, I know, I can see, I can make my judgment, but it's not my field.
And to answer the question regarding the Christians right now in Iraq, of what they want to do. The main reason we created contact with folks in Iraq, because we wanted to see the vote of the people. 70,000 innocent lives have contacted us in the last 2 weeks, begging to be rescued, begging to go anywhere they could, because they cannot return to their homes. It's really important to know that there's a short-term and a long-term solution. Short-term, humanitarian. But part of that humanitarian has to be resettlement for folks who want to leave. Nobody's writing off Christianity in the area. But long-term, reworking the government to be inclusive of Shiites, Kurds, Sunnis, and Christians. Long-term. But at the same time, recognizing that You can't force anyone to be a martyr who wants to leave. And number two, 50% are children. What does a 5-year-old boy or girl know about becoming a martyr? They choose life. So short term, give them the aid that they need. Ask US and like-minded nations with a human heart, with a human conscience to offer them a home. Long term, rework the Iraqi government to make sure it's inclusive. Because ISIL and ISIS is a symptom of the overall problem in the area, which is inclusiveness and equality. And that's why you saw in 2003 we had 1.4 million Christians, and today we have less than 400,000.
And then go ahead. Thank you.
Hello. Hi. Thanks for coming. Trenton Daniel, Associated Press. There was a similar delegation that was here a few weeks ago with Christians from Iraq, and members of the delegation met with U.S. Ambassador Power along with the DSG. I was wondering, did anything actually, like, well, one, what was the purpose of these meetings, and then did anything actually come out of these meetings?
I would have to say that this delegation is not from Iraq. I am an American citizen, and but I am Chaldean of Iraqi descent and so on. So I am really defending human rights that are there, that for problems that tragedies that are there. So what really I'm not aware of.
That was us.
That was it. Were you? Okay.
If we are doing a full court press on many different levels. We just came from Washington, D.C. We had a meeting at the White House yesterday. We had a meeting with Assistant Secretary Ann Richards yesterday. We had a meeting with members of Congress. We have a bill in the legislature. The meeting we had weeks ago was more information gathering, showing her the evidence, showing her the facts, because we know that the American civilians have been taken out of Iraq because of the dangerous situation. We've been able to connect to folks on the ground to give them the real life situation, real life story right now, what's happening, for them to assess. What we do know, it's a three-prong approach, where it's a humanitarian, safe passage for those who want to leave, and safe zone for those who want to stay. And we realize that the latter, the safe zone, is the most difficult one because the Iraqis ultimately have to recognize it. Currently, we want to make sure that a resettlement and asking US and like-minded countries to open their doors, it's critical. Open their hearts and their minds. And 4 countries have stepped up. France has been tremendous. Sweden has been tremendous. Australia has been tremendous. And Canada has been tremendous. But all 4 of them and other member states have said, when America acts, we will increase the visas. And so we've been playing to the Obama administration, to members of Congress, and to the State Department. We need action. We can't assess.
And what sort of response have you all received?
We keep pushing, so we're waiting.
Mark, I just want to be really clear for the Associated Press and other members of media here. The delegation who was here a few weeks ago was in fact this very same delegation.
Sorry, I did not understand that.
Was in fact this very same delegation. U.S. Ambassador Samantha Power met with Bishop Francis Calabat, and who's also a member of this delegation. Bishop here had actually left the day before. So, in fact, the same delegation working for the same cause as you hear today.
And we had 2 resolutions connected with that here. One of the General Assembly stating that a crime against humanity in Iraq were 3rd degree.
The Security Council resolution.
It's 2170, UN 2170 was passed, I believe, from the Security Council.
That Friday.
That Friday.
Yeah.
And the Congress, we passed HR 683. Currently, we have a bill, 5483, I believe, in Congress. But really, the Obama administration right now, it's a defining moment because he has an incredible opportunity to act and save their lives. The world should come together like we did in Bosnia, whether it be airlifts, whether it be finding a transient country to process them and bring them not just to America, but all throughout the world, because we know that they're dying. This is reality, and 50% of them are children.
Many of the member states, we met with more than 20 delegations of member states, including the EU and neighboring countries in the area of the conflict. And many of them, some have publicly announced, but many are in the process of doing much more than they would have done previously about resettlement and safe haven. And we have many commitments that in the coming days will be announced, but have already been working through their systems in the last few weeks since our meetings, including Russia, including even Turkey, and neighboring countries, and many other countries in the European Union, including Austria, Germany, the Netherlands, Denmark. An incredible show of finding strategic ways that they can make a difference in this process beyond what they were going to do before.
I'll take the floor. Forgive me, Bishop.
Thank you. She's been waiting for the floor. And then we'll go back to James. Please, thank you.
Thank you. No, I just wanted to follow up in something that the bishop said earlier, that many of those constitutions in the Middle East are in fact making Christians and other religions second-class citizens. And I was thinking that that should apply also to Israel, if I'm not mistaken, which is defining its state as a Jewish state. So I was wondering, what are your thoughts on that, and if we should request that to all countries? Thank you.
Would you take that question?
That said it.
Would you respond to that?
Israel, how many Arab countries or Christian countries are there in the world, but there are multi-ethnic societies that live equally as citizens. Every Christian in Israel that's an Israeli citizen has equal rights, equal votes, equal pay, equal access, equal way to practice their faith. This is very important to know, that this is not about a debate about the consequences of how we got here or who's at fault linking. That's a very dangerous thing to do in the face of children dying that need to get out. This focus, we cannot lose focus in the bureaucracy of outside issues. This is about children in Nineveh. Nineveh, the cradle of civilization, that right now, either they convert or die. Yazidis, Ismailis, Christians.
In Gaza, they were
Our job is to save the children and get them to safe passage. That's it. That's why we're here.
I actually, my question, I appreciate your comments because you know Israel probably better than many of us. But the bishop's comments were about Middle East in general and the constitutions itself and how to make other religions citizens, second-class citizens. So I still wonder to the bishop, should we ask this to every country, that no constitution, no state should define itself as a single religion and make others second class?
Human rights should be given to every human being, and independently from the religion of that person. That is the principle that I am announcing and I believe in, and I think it could be shared and put to debate at any level of human society. Constitutions should not impose any religion on others. See, in Iraq, I know what I know where I was born and lived few years, and go back to see also the effects. In many countries, you are allowed to be Christian, these countries of Middle East, you are allowed to be Christian in your house and in your church. The minute you go to the street, to any public arena, then you have to act. Ramadan, you are Christian. You are not obligated to by Ramadan. But in the public arena, you have to behave, to act as though you are, because Muslim, because you cannot eat, cannot smoke in public, in anything. So you have to act as Muslim. Today also, even what you wear for a lady, she must wear what a Muslim lady would wear, though she is Christian. So really, freedom is not of conscience. It is only of domestic and somehow closed clubs, arenas. But the minute you go in public, you have to act and talk and practically be like other Muslims in the schools and offices and society, in clubs, in the street, and a restaurant, everywhere. So wine is forbidden, then it's forbidden. But I'm Christian, I'm not bound by that. Oh, it doesn't matter. And so on. That is the problem. The problem is you have to make constitutions that are for human beings, for a society that where religious freedom is granted to everyone, to every conscience. That is not granted. It's not granted, really. It's not applied. It's not recognized. Should be not even granted. Should be recognized. It's not given and recognized.
And it's important to note, though, that this issue in Iraq is humanity, folks that care about humanity and not, of all religions. ISIL is not Islam. There's been tremendous folks in the Islam community, that Muslims have denounced ISIS. And it's this action in Iraq, it's really about inclusiveness of everyone. So it's not this religion against that religion. It's important to note, though, that the framework of Iraq from the beginning, when America went in, we never sealed the borders and we demilitarized the Ba'ath Party, which we put 500,000 soldiers out of business. We took out the dictator. We got a leader that was very secular. Saddam was very secular, that protected minorities. And then you have a government that was not inclusive. And then you had the Sunnis resent the Shiites. So when you have upheaval and you have ISIS, the Sunnis joined the black flag because they want to overthrow the government. And then right now you have a three-state Iraq with the Shiites in the south, Sunnis in the middle, and Kurds in the north. There is no room for Christians right now, or Yazidis as well. So we're trying to save the Christians and the Yazidis, anyone that's being persecuted under ISIS. And we're going to be relentless in our efforts to do so, but we're not writing off Christianity in the region. But we want to make sure that it's a human rights issue. And I'm so sorry for going over time. And actually, for those who want to know the bill in Congress, it's 5430.
Thank you, Mark. One final question, James, and we have to wrap it up.
Yeah, sure, thank you. James Ryan with Jazeera. I think I'll move off the religious topic. And obviously in the building today, we've got John Kerry coming later, and next week there's going to be lots of work. Coalition building, as Obama puts it, towards the forces that are going to be seeking to topple the Islamic State. We've got an idea what it looks like: airstrikes, America, France now, ground troops, Iraqi forces, Syrian opposition, Kurds. Do you think this is right? I mean, you've got contacts with people who are on the ground. You must have concerns about them. Maybe you could tell us a bit about your thinking on this.
Sure. I think that resettlement should be an option, should be on the high-level options, because if you see one consequence of airstrikes, there might be more attacks against Christians and minorities. Because although the intention is really good, let's contain them. To really rid of ISIS, it's much broader than just airstrikes. It's Iraqis ultimately have to do it. But short term, we have to save the minorities, Yazidis, and Christians. And it's not giving them an extra sandwich or extra blanket or extra pillow. That's short term. It's saying to the world, we're going to offer a home to the victims of genocide. We're going to treat this like we treated Bosnia. There's historical precedent. 1975, President Ford airlifted 150,000 Vietnamese from Vietnam when Saigon fell. 1980, President Reagan offered asylum to the Cubans. In 1990, President Clinton airlifted the Kurds, and they airlifted folks in Bosnia. We could process them in Guam. We could find a transient city. We have to make sure that resettlement has to be a top issue, because even if you get rid of ISIS, the way it is right now with the three-state Iraq, Shiites, Sunnis, and Kurds, there's no home for Christianity, for Christians. And we've seen that from 2003 to pre-ISIS. 1.5 million have left. So folks need to understand how we got here, what the issue is, and not blaming everything against Christians against ISIS, because it's not. ISIS is a symptom of the overall problem in the region, which we need to fix.
Ladies and gentlemen, war can only happen if you have weapons. Mass murder can only happen when evil men have the ability to destroy the lives of others. I want to make this very clear why I'm here again. I'm an American Jew, but that doesn't really matter my title and my place, but that my wife is an Israeli and my children also have dual passports. We are here because we love every human being. Every human being of all faiths and no faiths are children of God. And they all have equal worth, 100% equal. I have no army. I'm a private citizen. What I have are spiritual values that we all share. And that is why what you said about John Kerry coming today is our top agenda, all of us, and we're inviting all of you and those that are listening to join us in the coalition. We cannot stop wars because we don't have an army. If it's right or wrong, we don't even have that option. No one's asking our opinion. But what we do have is the ability to influence saving lives and giving those that want to have safe passage. Make it possible to bring them to safety, to build a safe life. Whatever country is offering to do it, it's about all wars ending. In the end of the day, we need to stop. Every human being needs to live in peace and tranquility, like we're sitting in this room without fear that someone is going to kill us because we're talking. We all know we're in a safe space. We need to give that to every human being on earth, and that's a true godly mission.
I wish you can tell that to people in Jerusalem and Gaza.
Thank you so very much. We've got to wrap this up. Our special guests will be available.